WCW Monday Nitro, February 5th, 2001. 8 episodes to go.
Could have been 7.
We start in the middle of a Nash Flair promo.
Yeah. We started in the middle.
Yes, join in progress.
Of a promo.
Yes. So, Flair is saying that if Kevin Nash wants to fight him, he'll have to get through Animal first. Nash goes through Animal like it's nothing. Mm-hmm. And Flair is left screaming on the microphone, "Animal, get up!" So Nash is yelling at Flair. Steiner and company arrive in their limo. They go running out, although it takes them like 5 minutes to get there. Nash threatens to strip Flair naked, begins to strip Flair naked.
Why?
Well, because Flair, like the cat, is apparently a member of Right to Nudity. He's never been shy about that kind of thing.
You don't say.
Yeah. So this goes forever before anyone shows up. I'm wondering if somebody missed a cue. Finally, the cavalry arrives. Nash threatens to break Flair's neck if they hit the ring, so they throw in the brakes. Nash calls out the cat. Now the cat, I don't know what.
Oh, this was where it began. This fucking Shat comes out, and he's got to make some matches, okay? But like, he always has to go into business for himself.
Yes.
He always has to say these jokes that he thinks are funny, but nobody else does.
Right.
He has to say Big Papa Dump 85 times, because like no one's laughing. So maybe he figures the more I say it, the more likely they'll hear what I'm saying. So he announces that Scott Steiner will be having... No, first he says... He comes out and he says, "I'm going to send all of you home." Then he starts signing them into matches. It's like, well, why the fuck did you say you were sending everybody home if you're supposed to sign them to matches? He goes, "Scott Steiner, you're going to wrestle 3 times tonight because I'm a 3-time karate champion. Big Papa Dump." He signs Scott Steiner versus 4 cruiserweights. All right. Then he says you will face Diamond Dallas Page. Then you will face Kevin Nash in a title match. He says, if somebody loses, I'm not even sure who he said. If somebody loses, Flair has to resign at midnight tonight. I'm like, if who loses? If Nash loses? If Steiner loses? Who has to lose for Flair to resign tonight? Then he goes, Nash will also have a mystery partner. I'm like, you're signing a championship match, yes. Okay, where if somebody loses, I don't fucking know who because you can't get your story straight. If somebody loses, Flair resigns at midnight, and it's a title match where Nash, the babyface, will have a mystery partner against the heel,
who has already wrestled 2 other matches.
Then he clarifies if Nash wins, Flair is out. Okay?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, he was never supposed to say it was a title match. It was only supposed to be the resign stipulation. But as always, he just says whatever comes to his fucking mind. We have to try to figure out what's going on. And then they were like, well, he ain't gonna fucking win anyway, so we may as well not fix it. So it is a title match, a handicap match. If the babyface with the advantage over the heel wins, Flair has to resign. Got all that?
And he's the champion.
Okay, yes. That made no fucking sense what I just said, but it made more sense than when Shat said it. God, I was hating this show already.
Do you have a cat to English dictionary?
This was a 10-minute segment that felt like it went 30 minutes.
Absolutely horrible fucking segment.
He's the worst spokesman.
Yes.
And they give him the mic all the time.
Every show. Back in the day, there were websites that kept track of win-loss records. Mm-hmm. And you go to check the top records in WWF, and it's the top baby faces. It was Austin and Undertaker. They won all the time. And the best win-loss record in WCW was The Cat.
God.
He just won all the time. That's why WCW is dead. So after the break, Flair is still being helped out of the ring. We open with Scott Steiner in a 4-on-1 handicap match versus Kaz Hayashi and Jimmy Yang and Jamie Noble and Evan Courageous.
Dude. I mean, the good news is, like, I love this.
Oh, God, this is great.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to put this in context of what it was like at the time.
Well, first, we have to make it very clear that this company is 2 months away from dying, and what they need is to create new stars. And the one thing that drove a lot of fans off was that the cruiserweights were talented but always got destroyed.
Yeah.
And so here we are. It's 2001. They're teetering towards death, although they think they're teetering towards a new deal, but that falls apart. And they have Steiner go out and destroy. And keep in mind, at the pay-per-view, these guys had the best match on the show.
Yeah.
So their plan is Steiner's going to come out and single-handedly, as a heel, by the way, destroy 4 cruiserweights all at the same time.
Not even one after another.
No, he
Simultaneously.
fucks them up one at a time. He's suplexing them on their heads.
It's so awesome.
killing these dudes.
Like, from a business sense, it's very much the wrong thing to do. And if you were not around in 2001, I can't tell you how outraged wrestling fans were by this segment. And I understand why. But knowing how history ended up for everyone and how in the end this company was dead one way or
If
another.
you have the who gives a fuck mindset,
Yes.
it was awesome.
This is so glorious. Just carnage and ruin as far as the eye can see.
Yang took an exploder literally on top of his head.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. He's still walking.
Avalanche T-bones out there.
The story
Deadlift
is
belly to bellies.
he destroys them all. They make one brief comeback. They all lay on him. He bench presses them all into the air to kick out, like an explosion.
Yes.
He kills them some more, and then a stacked up 3-man Steiner recliner for the triple submission.
Yes.
Jesus.
I love this.
I laugh.
It's awful, but I loved it.
My God, this show.
Flair is still getting dressed.
I love this because Flair's back there. He's going nuts. He's yelling at Animal. Steiner comes in. Steiner starts yelling at Flair. Flair turns at Sanders and goes, "It's your fault. Take care of this."
You booked us in separate limos, he says. That's why he was alone and Steiner wasn't there to save him. He orders Sanders to get things fixed. So, the Cat and Kevin Nash are gloating in their locker room when in walk Dallas Page and half of Chronic. Kron, apparently.
Sure. Or Nick.
Or Nick. So they all sit down, and Cat is shouting about Dallas Page and Scott Steiner. He's got a bad neck. You got to jack his neck. He's got a bad back. You got to jack his back. You got to just diamond cutter him. And as Cat's going off, Bryan Adams turns to Kevin Nash and softly mumbles, "My partner got banned from the building." And Nash goes, clearly news to Kevin Nash about this. And
That's what he said?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Pretty
Fairly.
I thought he said something else about the bathroom.
What?
Possible? I did rewind.
Because he wasn't banned from the building. The storyline was that he was hurt and couldn't come to the building. So
Well, no.
maybe Adams didn't know that.
The story is Flair's doctors and lawyers banned Clark from the building.
Well, the doctors.
Yes. So anyway, this was awful.
Yeah.
This is a horrible segment. Mean Gene interviews Rick Steiner. Steiner says he wants to beat Shane Douglas for the U.S. title and give Nash more incentive to beat my brother.
Can't wait till Granny gets out of the hospital and I award her a cat for a gift.
Great idea.
Oh, she'll be overjoyed.
That's a great idea. I don't know why Rick Steiner beating Shane Douglas would give Kevin Nash more incentive, but that was Rick's idea.
Can you imagine that they had that god-awful match last week? And so the first thing they do is rematch them this week?
Yeah. That's what happened.
It was about as good.
I mean, it can't be worse than last week, right?
Yeah, could be. I'm not sure it was or not, to be honest.
It
looking
was
back.
not worse than last week.
It was very bad.
Gene interviews Bryan Adams. They show video of Road Warrior Animal hitting Brian Clark in the head with a chair, busting him open.
Yeah, so they say that he is on the shelf. That's why he's not here.
But he also said he didn't go to the hospital after.
Crush claims he did not go to the hospital. He went home and sewed it up himself.
And laughed.
Yes.
A cut on the back of his head.
Yes.
That is an insanely talented man.
strategically place the mirrors, it'll work.
And then he says, tonight I will take out Luger and Buff with only my fist. He was like you at the border. Only these, he says.
No lead pipe, no steel chair, just these.
So he thinks it's a handicap match.
Yes.
No one has any idea what's going on.
Yeah. I'm just glad I'm the only one who randomly referred to him only as Crush this week.
Oh, I had
all my notes.
I got the next segment here. Luger and Flair and Animal and Buff backstage. Buff says Adam Bomb is out for 3 weeks. I couldn't even get that one straight. Luger wants...
Oh, here he goes. Granny, turn it off.
Okay. Luger, Buff, and Animal are with Ric Flair. Okay?
Check.
All right. Flair is the president and can make any match he wants.
Right.
Yes.
Luger and Buff are heels.
Correct.
Buff has an idea. He says Adam Bomb is out for 3 weeks. Luger says, why don't you make a match, Rick? It's us versus Chronic at the pay-per-view in a no substitution match. That way, if Adam Bomb can't show up, it'll be a handicap match. I'm like, why don't you just fucking ask for a handicap match?
Sure.
Your fucking idea is a no substitution match. You know what I'm saying? That's what you fucking came up with to screw the baby faces? Not just his partner's injured. Why don't we just have a handicap match at the pay-per-view? No, let's have a no substitution match. Maybe he won't be there, but maybe he will. Ah! Good one, Crush! That's the match they came up with.
It wasn't Crush's fault.
Or whoever came up with this fucking match.
By the
Buff.
way,
The show's so dumb, it makes me dumb. You ever had a day like that?
Yes, actually.
I
Watching
can't.
these shows.
I can't figure out what's going on because this show is so stupid. It's making me stupid.
by the way, why was Luger wearing a... He's dressed like a fisherman.
He was, yes.
I love on this show something totally stupid and nonsensical happens, and then Craig's like, "Did you see what he was wearing? That's what you got out of this? He was dressed like a fisherman?"
Brian, he was wearing khaki cargo pants. He was wearing a button-up shirt and a ball cap.
He may as well have had
He
waiters.
probably just got back from fishing because nobody gives a fuck about wrestling on this show.
He also called their team totally buffed again.
He did.
That's the name of it. Totally buffed. Lex Luger.
As in, like, past tense?
Yeah, they've been buffed.
Like a car.
Yes, look at them. They're very shiny.
That's actually true. Shane Douglas versus Rick Steiner.
Fucking terrible. Shane's got a cast on. A
Nope.
fucking cast.
No one knows why.
This is never explained. It's just like, he's got a cast from his fucking finger to his elbow.
Yeah.
The rest's like, let's see. Yeah, it's hard as a fucking rock. Ring the bell.
So Douglas whacks him with a cast immediately, casts him, then picks up a chair, gently pokes him in the belly with a chair like 5 times. Mm-hmm. And then they go to, they do a spot where both guys duck and either guy actually swings a punch. They have no chemistry together.
But this was not worse than last week.
It was miles better than last week.
Oh, Vinny.
Last week was terrible, dude. So Steiner takes over. He's going for, I guess, the Bulldog. He jumps off, and Douglas does not swing the cast forward. Mm-mm. Douglas holds his arm in the air.
Yes.
And Steiner lands on his feet and headbutts it and goes down.
This was worse than last week, Vinny. Last week they fucked up one hip toss. This they fucked up everything.
It was more than that. I'm seeing your point. I may be wrong about which was worse, but... So then, the one thing both matches had in common, they both did 95 too many things. You're not doing a pay-per-view main event. You're doing a TV mid-card match. You don't need 87 false finishes.
It was for the title. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Steiner kicks out of one finish, hits the Steiner driver, and wins. Crowd did pop. Mm-hmm. Crowd did pop. Flair meets with Chavo. Do you remember Ric Flair's notorious promo from Raw on Carlito?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Where, before going off on Carlito, he says something about how I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yes.
Ric Flair here on Nitro in 2001 looks at Chavo Guerrero Jr. and says, sometimes I forget who I am.
Concussions.
And severe insecurity issues.
Mostly bad booking.
All of the above. So me and your dad went drinking, he says. I found a real bad apple for you to wrestle. He's going to take you to the limit and then make you look good at the end. And he looks at his monitor. That's what he said. Don't get mad at me. That's what he said. And he looks at his monitor where Dustin Rhodes is making his entrance and he screams, Rhodes isn't allowed on the show. What's he doing here? He storms off.
So this next segment, it's Dustin coming out. And basically he calls out Ric Flair. Flair appears on the screen. He's going nutty. He says Dustin will never work here. And so they're trying to pretend like it's a shoot. Dustin doesn't work here. He showed up. So as Dustin starts to rant, they cut his mic and they cut immediately to commercial. Mm-hmm. Because the storyline is he's not supposed to be there and they don't want you to see it or hear what he says. They go to commercial. They come back for a replay as well as footage of him being arrested.
Yes.
I'm like, can you do one fucking thing right on this show? Rob, you are a fucking Emmy award-winning producer compared to these people here. This is so bad. Every now and then you make a mistake, okay? But other than that, you do everything right. They haven't done one thing right on this show. Have they done one thing right?
I like when Flair in one breath says, you'll never work here, you're fired.
Yeah. Not one thing right on this show. This isn't even a Russo show.
No. Dallas Page versus Scott Steiner.
I will say one thing, okay? So after I got that rant out, this match wasn't bad.
No.
But it was a bad finish.
It was a bad finish. So,
and I will say, when Scott Steiner wrestled those Young Dragons, okay, when they announced he had 3 matches, I thought, okay, it's Nitro. So, one of the matches will be a real match, and the other 2, it'll just be bullshit. They're not going to make this guy really work 3 full matches. He's gigantic. He'll explode. He goes out there, and granted, it was a squash match, but he worked his ass off with those Young Dragons.
he got a workout in.
He's fucking throwing these guys. He's bench pressing. He worked his ass off. So he comes out here, and I thought, okay, it's Steiner DDP. It's just be like a quick angle and diamond cutter, and he'll get out of there. This fucking guy worked his ass off.
He did.
He had another real match with Diamond Dallas Page, and despite the finish, he worked.
Oh, yes. Now, the last time I believe these two were together, it was backstage, and Scott Steiner was trying to tear the man's eyeball out.
That's right.
So I was very curious how they'd be able to work together, and the answer is, for the most part, very well. Very professional, everything was fine. Now, somewhere in here, Scott Steiner did get a bloody lip, which is not the end of the world, but if I were Dallas Page and I bloodied this man's lip,
I would be scared.
running for the door.
Let me give you a jiu-jitsu analogy here to this fight, Vinny.
Okay.
Rob will understand this. So if you go to a new gym and you've got any color on your belt, or really anything, they're just going to try to kill you.
Sure.
Right, Rob? Am I wrong about this?
You are not wrong at all.
Okay. So, you know how to...
What happened?
Rob unplugged me is what happened.
How did I unplug you?
This doesn't count, does it?
This is your fault, Brian. Rob was sitting there minding his own business, and you called him into action.
How did...
Oh, no.
I literally didn't touch a fucking thing. How did I unplug you?
Did you hit a button over here, Brian? Are all those buttons right?
You fucking unplugged something, dude. Something got unplugged here.
Benny, you want to run play-by-play on this?
Okay, so Brian's fiddling with his knobs.
Right.
Yeah, switching levers and
Yeah. Pulling things.
yanking cords.
Sure.
Yes. And
See, something got unplugged.
red lights came on. A red light came on over here, and a blue light came on over there. They're gone now.
Damn it.
Popping again.
Yeah,
Give me that.
the lights are off.
Your headphones unplugged this fucking thing. It was you.
Uh-oh.
It was Rob, everybody. It was Rob.
Does this count as producing?
I'm not sure I'm going to count this one.
Okay.
He was sitting there again, minding his own business.
Now do I got audio? Hello?
No, not yet. The lights are also still off?
What did you do, They talk about something. What were we even talking about?
Talking about Dallas Page and Scott Steiner. And you were going to say something about jiu-jitsu, but now we can't. Rob, do you know where he was going to go with that one? Do you want to... I'll put my mic over here now. Okay. So, yes. So, Steiner gets a couple of near falls. Page kicks out. So, in
Your
frustration...
headphones yanked out the power cord. All right. I won't hold that one against you, Rob. Now, where was I?
Jits.
You know how you solve the problem of going to a new gym and everyone is there to just beat your ass?
You go home.
No! You go in there, and it doesn't matter if you're higher or lower ranked. You go, and everybody submits you. Because once they've beaten you, now they're cool.
I see.
So, when DDP and Scott Steiner had that big fight, there was no ego afterwards.
I'm sure that's
DDP
true.
was like, you beat my ass.
I'm sure that's true.
And like, everybody was fine, and they moved on with their lives.
Yes.
It's very important that I got that story out.
Apparently.
Despite all of this rigmarole.
So Steiner gets frustrated. He lays out the referee. And as soon as he lays out the referee, they do a big spot, and Page gets the diamond cutter.
Rob's still trying to beat me up. It's been 4 years.
Of course, there is no ref. Eventually, the ref does call for the bell.
Well, Wednesday.
So it's a disqualification because Steiner hit the ref. So in this way, Page wins.
Where are we? Oh, the Steiner match still? All right, keep going. A lot happened there, Vinny.
Page wins and hits his move, but Steiner does not lose his title. That's the point of all this.
Yeah.
Then as Page is celebrating with the fans,
Good morning. What does he always say?
there was a lot of good night on this show.
Okay, good night.
So as Page is celebrating with fans, they say, "Wait, that fan is attacking Dallas Page."
This giant fan. It
With
looked
long
like
black hair, who's
looked like a
280
worker.
pounds. It's Chris Kanyon, and Jeff Jarrett's also there. It took him a long time to figure out it's Chris Kanyon. So we go to commercial. We come back. Page's friends are tending to him backstage. Jarrett and Kanyon run to a car and drive away because, God forbid, somebody attacks somebody in the show and stays around. Well, that's what happens all the time. I don't know why these two had to be the ones who ran away. Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus his mystery opponent, El Nino.
How long did it take you to
El
figure
Nino.
7 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Nobody had any idea who El Nino was. The fans had no idea.
No.
The announcers had no idea. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Tony. But somebody goes, this El Nino, he's very Bugsy McGraw-ish.
It was Tony.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I have no idea.
Bugsy McGraw-ish?
I don't know.
That was a comparison that even
guess
I was baffled by.
There was a part where he was like doing the airplane taunt, running around in circles with his arms out.
Sure.
I guess that was it. But
It was so clearly Ray.
it was Rey Mysterio Jr.
And I mean, to be fair, Ray had been maskless for a long time. And if you've been watching Ray in 2020, the masked El Nino looked exactly like Rey Mysterio in a different costume. But I mean, even without that, every move he did was a Rey Mysterio move.
Yes.
Every movement he made was a Rey Mysterio move.
every mannerism, every gesture.
It wasn't until he finally... Actually, I can say that. He did a 619. The announcer still had no idea who it was.
Yeah.
He finally hit the springboard leg drop. The last move of the match.
The finish.
Good night. Guess what? It's Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Then he unmasks, and it is, in fact, Rey Mysterio.
So the announcers here are talking about El Nino and the luchador tradition. You know, it's the luchadors, they say, who helped WCW rebuild its cruiserweight division. And then an hour ago, we killed it.
Well, there were no luchadors that got killed in that match.
No, there weren't,
quite
actually. That's
frankly.
true. They killed the cruiserweights, but no luchadors. So this match went forever. We got like a comeback, and then another comeback, and then Chavo hits a chin lock, and then more comebacks. And finally, Ray wins the West Coast pop, and he reveals himself. So, are Rey Mysterio and Ric Flair buds then? Did they work together to screw Chavo?
No. Somehow Ric Flair... Okay,
Explain that. I want to know.
I'll explain this to you.
I want to know.
Okay, I can't believe I'm doing this. Rick went drinking
Yes.
with
Chavo
Chavo Guerrero Sr.
Yes.
Right.
Which, that part's believable.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay. At the bar, Rey Mysterio was dressed in a costume as El Nino.
Why? What?
That's what Ric Flair said. He found a guy when they were out drinking. There was a real Spitfire, or whatever he called him. And so, I don't know if... maybe Ray and Chavo spoke Spanish to each other and Ray didn't understand, and then Chavo said, this guy will take on... I don't even know! But that's what happened in storyline.
Okay.
Ric Flair found El Nino when he was out drinking with Chavo.
So they were not in cahoots.
No.
Rey Mysterio pulled a fast one.
He was trying to give Chavo an easy win. Okay. But in fact, Chavo was beaten to set up their pay-per-view match, which was already booked before they did this angle. The show sucks. It's fucking terrible.
Lance Storm and Mike Awesome come out for a promo.
When did Mike Awesome become a body guy?
I love when Lance Storm came out with Mike Awesome, and they're doing their promo, and Shad appears on the big screen to announce the match. So in storyline, Lance and Mike Awesome just came out.
Yeah, for a promo, yes.
They were going to just come out and do the anthem.
Yes.
And they were surprised to be wrestling the Natural Born Thrillers.
Yes, he says, no one wants to hear your stupid song. You're going to wrestle these guys instead. And out come Sean O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo, the World Tag Team Champions. Now,
this was the very definition of something going off a cliff. Because for the first half, it went like this, and then it went...
Well, I'll tell you the exact point. I'll tell you the exact point it went off the cliff. First of all, the punishment... Now, it was a non-title match, to be fair, but still, your punishment, because no one wants to hear your song, is a chance to beat the World Tag Team Champions and earn a title shot. So, Mike Awesome and Sean O'Haire are a perfect match as a pair of huge, very athletic wrestlers who often had zero idea what the hell they were doing from one moment to the next. Chuck Palumbo was not quite as athletic at them, but way more level-headed, but still very, very green here. And then you have Lance Storm, pro wrestler.
He's trying so hard.
When Lance was in, and they got the heat on him, so a good chunk of the match, when he was in there, it was a very good TV tag match. And then he makes a hot tag to Mike Awesome, who, as I said, has no idea what he's going to do from one move to the next, and a train wreck ensued. My favorite part is, they cut Awesome off for a while, and he makes his comeback, and not only does he not make a tag during his comeback, he goes to his corner, and goes to the top rope, and Lance has to get out of his way. Lance has to go around the post to clear room so Awesome can do his move.
Let's talk about what they meant to do.
Okay.
The finish is that Lance gets blinded. Mm-hmm. He puts the half crab on his own fucking partner.
Yes.
Elix Skipper has to tell him you've got the hold on the wrong guy. Keep in mind, he's holding on to Mike Awesome. Mike Awesome can't tell him. A guy 15 feet away has to tell him. Lance lets go, and then Sean hits the senton on Mike Awesome, pins him.
I think, in all seriousness, O'Haire hit the senton and then forgot he had to pin the guy.
That's possible.
Because he hits the senton, rolls through, and begins to pose and flex and roar, and Palumbo has to approach him and gesture, go pin him.
Well, maybe he wasn't the legal man.
I don't know.
I'm only speculating, but do you think Lance got blinded in this match because he got blinded legit the week before with the hot stuff?
So someone had hot stuff in the corner? I don't know.
All
I know is this was wacky.
It was, I will say this for this match, it was spectacular.
It was definitely something to see.
Yes. Except Lance, who couldn't see it. So Stasiak and Jindrak, who are also in the Natural Born Thrillers, but feuding with the other Natural Born Thrillers, they are upset by this, but they vow to win the tag titles at the pay-per-view.
All right, allow me.
God.
He's getting prepped for this.
Crush versus Buff.
You want to stretch?
I wrote the same thing.
This sounds awful, I wrote.
Well.
In fact, it was awful. So, it's like they forgot The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin are on the other channel. They're doing this goddamn fucking terrible match, and you'll never guess what happens. After doing a stipulation where Wrath, whatever his fucking name is, Wrath was injured, and so we're going to have a no substitutions match in 3 weeks, okay? Maybe he can make it back, maybe he can't. We'll have to wait and see.
On the edge
Fucking Wrath returns on this show.
And he's fine.
He runs in. He's totally fine. He attacks Luger. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Animal runs down. They're brawling. Crush hits a choke slam on Buff. The referee calls for the bell. I'm baffled. The ref then goes,
Brightest, happiest
Because
watch.
19 years ago this week, they knew that you had asked me, why are you pointing and looking at your watch? Do you remember this?
I do, actually.
How fucking crazy is that?
Yes.
The ref looks at his fucking watch.
He did.
That's how he tells the time. He does it on his own watch.
He's got a Timex, yes.
So anyway, they announce time limit draw. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so that's the bullshit that happened on television. In real life, this match went 5 minutes. It was supposed to be a 10-minute time limit.
Oh, my.
Okay. So apparently, it was actually supposed to go 10 minutes.
Oh,
Which, by the way, somebody thought,
I did not need this match to go twice as long as it did.
Crush versus Buff, let's have them go 10 minutes to a draw. Okay. So the match is supposed to go 10 minutes, but apparently, like, they were running low on time. And so they decided, of all the matches to cut time on, let's cut time on the time limit draw that we're trying to establish as a new finish.
oh my gosh. Well, that's a new one.
So this was...
Don't even say anything other than fucking goddamn awful.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
I agree. I just want to add a few reasons it was so fucking goddamn awful that you cannot capture. And you're the only one man, Brian. Can't handle all the overload.
No.
bullshit. So
It's a handicap match. WCW versus me.
as Wrath is laying waste to Lex Luger at ringside, they suddenly cut back to the ring and it's mid-move. So I can't tell exactly what happened, but it appears that Buff Bagwell grabbed Bryan Adams for his Kenta Kobashi DDT, Scott Hudson calls it, and then legitimately tried to drive his head into the mat as hard as he possibly could. Because you hear a bump, and like at that time they cut to the ring, and Adams is on his toes and forehead, and no other part of his body is in the mat. All of Buff's weight is on top of Adams' head, and his neck is cranked to the side at a very terrible angle. It looked like a legit attempt to murder someone with an actual DDT. Animal was also out there. When this ended, I was like, there's no way that was 10 minutes, but I can't possibly go back and check that whole horror show. And like a minute went by and I said, I've got to check. So I can't be certain because I don't think there was an opening bell, but I timed it at 5 minutes, 30 seconds.
That's what it was.
And totally buffed are left standing tall at the end. Flair and the crew give Steiner a pep talk as he prepares for his third match of the evening, where he is defending Flair's job and his title against two men.
May I tackle this Crush promo? Because I wrote it down word for word.
I only wrote down the best line.
Go good. So, first off, they blow off that there's going to be an issue leading up to the pay-per-view. And Crush says, and I quote, "You can do whatever you want to us. You can keep beating us down. All you're doing is making us stronger. We're going to keep coming and getting worse and worse. Just like a bad dream."
Yes. That is what the man said.
Crying.
Word for word. That's what he said.
He will be getting worse and worse on the road to this pay-per-view.
That is a bad dream.
You know, he's not wrong.
He challenges Lex to a singles match on Thunder, and he finishes. And Gene says, "Well, about that match," Adam says, "I gotta go. I think my partner's hurt." And he runs away. Was he not hurt when you started this promo?
It's fair.
Nash goes for a walk. Steiner goes for a walk. And then Scott Steiner versus Kevin Nash and a mystery partner with the World Championship and Ric Flair's job as CEO on the line. Nash says, Nash comes out for a promo. He says, "In the Wolfpack days, I spent a lot of time with K-Dog." Okay, so K-Dog's going to be his partner. Fine. K-Dog always talked about familia. Well, my partner tonight is familia. It's your familia. It's Rick Steiner. Because even the announcement has to be a swerve.
All right, so just to recap, Scott Steiner, top heel, signed to work 3 matches this evening. A 1-on-4 handicap match, a match with a DDP, and a 1-on-2 handicap match with his title on the line.
Yes.
They then proceed to do a match where he's just fighting valiantly against 2 men.
Yes. He's the best babyface
Yes.
ever.
So they start out as just like 2-on-1, and then it breaks down into a match where tags are needed. Who cares?
I don't know.
You'll never guess the finish, everybody.
Oh, I bet they will.
I mean, let's think of what they did to Scott Steiner, how they booked him on this show. And you need to come up with a finish that's going to make sure that he outsmarts everybody and makes every single babyface look dumb.
So Kevin Nash, who is still getting the title shot at the pay-per-view, he's in there with a champion who has already wrestled twice, and he has a partner, and he's still getting beat. Why would you ever buy a pay-per-view to watch this man challenge for the title now, when it's very, very clear he's not in Steiner's league? Nash then begins to make his comeback. His comeback start, actually, that's not quite true. Rick Steiner gets a cheap shot on Scott from the apron. That gives Nash an opportunity to make his comeback. So Nash is running wild. He does all his stuff. He grabs Scott, he hits the powerbomb, he makes a cover, and Rick Steiner is in the ring celebrating. And the ref counts 1, and the ref counts 2, and Rick Steiner drops a elbow. A single, lone, solitary elbow smash on Kevin Nash. And Nash rolls over, and Scott climbs on top of him, and the ref counts 3. Now, in case
Why isn't the elbow his new finisher?
In case you thought Kevin Nash had a prayer of beating Scott Steiner at the pay-per-view, he can get pinned with a elbow.
Oh, yeah. That's something Scott needs to work on. Because Scott does that same elbow, but then he does push-ups.
I guess
right.
I hadn't thought
So
of
he
that.
needs to be trained to not do push-ups. Drop that elbow and make a cover.
So the goal of this segment was to see how Steiner can get better.
Yeah. This was a really dumb show.
This is very, very dumb. And as weird as that Raw main event was, this was 1,000 times weirder. And 1,000 times worse as well.
God.
And then, because Nitro can never just end, the Steiners are together and leaving. Nash calls them back to fight. Paige runs out with a chair. And then the show ends.
Ready?
Ready when you are.
It's a dramatic pause.
The finishes on this show were triple submission in a 1-on-4 handicap match. Clean pin. DQ due to attack on ref. Clean pin. Clean pin after a guy accidentally puts his own partner in a submission hold. Time limit draw in a match that did not go the time limit. And pin after the champion beats up the challenger and another guy for 10 minutes, and then the challenger gets pinned after one move.
For one elbow.
One elbow.
Thank God we're done with this for a week.
It's going to be nice
Dude.
to not have to watch Raw and Nitro for 7
God
days.
help me. All right. We're done for the day. Rob, I'm giving you 1 point. Yes. So you and Ken will be tied if Ken gets 1 point on Thursday. Do not try to sabotage him.
Look at me.
This is not WCW. He's trying to do the math.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you give Ken a point the other night?
Nah, it wasn't really a point. I was just praising him.
It's like a half
yeah.
point.
He needs
I
to
see.
go a full week to get his point.
Okay.
So Sunday is half a point. Yeah.
That puts Ken at a disadvantage then. He's got to make it through 2 shows.
Yes.
Didn't I just say that at the beginning of the show, Craig?
Yeah, he did.
Where have you been? That's the whole point. Ken has to do 10 successful shows. Rob has to do 5.
I can't keep track.
Okay.
It's a
Oh
weekly
my
thing,
God.
not a numbers thing.
Yes.
Just kind of.
Vinny's done.
This is 2 shows in a row that have ended with you just out on a limb or whatever. Just crazy.
Watching old.
Yes, Rob?
I was going to say, Vinny is at this point is like Randy Orton after Edge eliminated him the other night. Bah!
We are watching Nitro and its death rattle. This will
Yeah.
drive a man mad.
Well, it's making you dumber too.
Yes.
All right. At least we all agree. All right, we're out of time, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.